In this video, we will show you how to replace your water pump on this Nissan Altima with a 2.5-liter engine. This will be located along the passenger side of your engine. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we want to talk about is make sure you're in a safe area because we will have to raise and support the vehicle. Other than that, you want to be under the hood. We're going to disconnect the negative battery terminal. We'll use a 10mm. We're going to turn this. Go ahead and lift this up and out of place. Once you've done that, make your way under the hood. You're going to find your radiator cap along the passenger side front. Assuming it's nice and cool to the touch, go ahead and take hold of that, press it down, turn it counterclockwise, and lift it up and away from your face, just in case there's any pressure. We'll just give that a quick inspection, and we can set this aside. Now let's carefully make our way underneath the front of the car. This is where we're going to have to find the drain. Along the passenger side subframe, if you were to look up inside this small hole, you're going to find a little X. That's a spot for a Phillips head screwdriver. This is the drain. Make sure you have a collection bucket so you can recycle the fluid properly. We'll let this fully drain. Once your coolant is done draining, continue on to reinstalling the drain plug. Bottom it out, and then just make sure it's nice and snug. Just wipe down our mess here. Over in the passenger side wheel well, we'll start removing the wheel. If you have a hubcap, go ahead and remove that now. Take hold of it, give it a light tug, and pull it away from the wheel. Once that's out of place, we'll continue on with our 5 21mm lug nuts and then remove the wheel from the vehicle. With the wheel out of the way, let's remove this plastic panel. It's held in place with 4 plastic push clips. To remove your push clips, carefully pull out the center to unlock it and then remove the outer portion as well. You can use a trim tool, small screwdriver, whatever you've got. Make our way in between, separate it. That's what it looks like right there. Get the center pulled out, should be unlocked. We'll set this aside. With that panel out of the way, we have a clear view of our serpentine belt in this area. The serpentine belt tensioner is up inside here. We can gain access to this with a 17mm, and we're going to turn the tensioner counterclockwise. Once you've relieved pressure from the belt, we can continue on to sliding the belt off of one of the pulleys. The crank pulley's right out in the open. We'll just go ahead and slide that right off of there. Remove your tool. The next thing you want to do is give your belt a quick inspection. Make sure it's soft and pliable and it doesn't look like it's cracked or worn in any way. Let's continue on to removing our engine cover from across the top here. You'll find this is held in place with 3 10mm headed bolts. It also has 1 push-in locking clip along the back side here. Inspect that mounting hardware as you remove it. Replace it as necessary. At this point, I'll take hold along this area and lift it straight up and remove the engine cover. With the cover out of the way, let's start disconnecting our wiring. Go ahead and carefully lift this little boot out of the way. Underneath that, you're going to find that you have a 12mm headed mounting nut. Do not remove this mounting nut unless you have disconnected that battery terminal. Take hold of the cable and lift it up and off. A quick check for corrosion. If you see a whole bunch of green or any other funny color, you need to go ahead and sand it down. Now, just underneath that area, you're going to find another wiring harness. This one has a locking tab where my index finger is. Go ahead and squeeze that in and gently lift this up and out of position. Let's continue on to removing the serpentine belt from up along the pulley on the alternator. Just go ahead and slide that right out of place. With that out of place, we have a clear view of the upper mounting bolt for the alternator, and if you were to look just below that, you'll find the second 13mm headed bolt. We'll remove the pair, starting with the hardest one to get to, which is down along the bottom there. Got our 13mm down here. Not much room down here. To fully remove that bolt, you may have to loosen the upper bolt as well. We'll give that mounting hardware a quick inspection and set it aside. Let's make our way to the upper bolt. At this point, we can take hold of the alternator and start lifting it up and out of here. Just have to wiggle it around a little bit to break it free. We'll carefully bring it up past the radiator here. We don't want to cause any damage to anything. Let's put a collection bucket underneath the water pump area. Now up under the hood, we're going to continue on by taking hold of the belt and getting it out of the way. We don't want any coolant making its way onto this and potentially causing damage. Just set this aside. Once you've removed the belt, the next thing we're going to do is look at the water pump itself. You'll find that this is held in place with 4 10mm headed bolts. There's 2 that are right out in the open here along the top. The second 2 are located just underneath those 2. We'll start with the hardest one, which is down in this back corner. You may find you have to use a ratcheting 10mm wrench for this. Feels loose enough, I can pull it out by hand. Inspect that mounting hardware, set it aside. Now let's move to the forward lower bolt. We'll break this free with a 6-point socket. We can move along to our other 2. At this point, I'm going to take this one and just start it in a couple threads. We'll fully remove the last one here, and this bolt will prevent this from falling. Double check to make sure the coolant's going in the bucket as it should. Take hold of the water pump, remove your final bolt. Let's remove the water pump from the area. There it is, friend. Once you have the water pump out of place, the next thing you want to do is clean and inspect the area. It's common to have a gasket. If you have to pry this out of place, make sure you do it with something that will not cause any damage. Once you've removed the gasket, the next thing you want to do is inspect this area. We'll give this a quick wipe, make sure there's no dirt, debris, or any issues. The next thing we'll do is clean and inspect the threaded area on our mounting bolts. All right, let's get ready to install our brand new water pump and brand new gasket. When you install this, you want to be paying attention to the orientation. We'll have the gasket so it's properly aligned. Take this and put it down in place. When it goes in place, this portion should be facing up. Now at this point, it's pretty much a balancing act. We'll get everything aligned as close as possible, start in each of our mounting bolts. Once you have all of them started in, you can snug them up and then torque them to 18 foot-pounds. Hardest part's just getting everything aligned properly. You don't want to cause any damage to the gasket. I'm feeling for the gasket down along the bottom here, making sure that I'm aligning everything as closely as possible. We don't want any kinks. When you tighten these, you want to form an X. Start in one corner, make your way out diagonally. Just bottom it out here. That one's bottomed out. Now once you have these snug, you want to torque them to the 18 foot-pounds in a crisscross manner. You may have an issue trying to get a small torque wrench into this area. If that's the case, just go ahead and make sure they're nice and snug, continuing with your wrench or ratchet that you had been using. Once you have that torqued, the next thing you would want to do would be to clean up your mess. Before we can install our alternator, we need to make sure we clean up the wiring. This is the main power wire that leads over to that alternator. We want to make sure we have good contact, use a little bit of fine sandpaper, and clean down any corrosion you might happen to see. Do both sides. The next thing you'll want to do is clean and inspect your mounting bolts for your alternator. Now we can get ready to install our alternator. Slide this down in here. There we are. Align your mounting bolt holes. Start in each of your mounting bolts before you tighten either of them. Now that I have the bolt started in by hand, we'll take the alternator and slide it rearward as far as possible. Once you've done so, you can continue on to snugging that bolt, and then we'll torque each of these to 18 foot-pounds. Now let's make our way in this area. If your dipstick had lifted up, go ahead and slide that back down. Start reconnecting our wiring harnesses here. We want to make sure we have the locking tab for this one facing towards the center of the vehicle. Press it down, listen for a click, give it a light tug to make sure it's secure. We'll continue on to our other wiring harness here. Slide it down, align it where it needs to be, and we'll continue on with the mounting nut. The mounting nut, you can go ahead and take that, bottom it out, and then we'll torque it to 96 inch-pounds. You want to make sure it's sitting flush. Install your mounting nut. .96 inch-pounds. We'll make sure we cover that area. Now we can install our serpentine belt. We'll take this and start bringing it down into place. The belt itself is going to go around the alternator, so you can go ahead and bring that down and over. Now at this point, we'll be taking this and sliding it all the way down towards the bottom there. Let's take this rearward side of the belt and slide it towards the rear of the engine. Have to make it past that pulley over there. There we are. Let's make our way into the passenger side wheel well. Down inside the wheel well, we'll make sure that the belt backing makes its way across the tensioner, and then the ribbed area will make its way up and over the crank, all the way around, and down towards the front, where it's going to go around the AC compressor pulley. Once you have this in the proper placement, we'll continue on with our 17mm directly up on that tensioner. Keep in mind, this could potentially slip out of position. Be careful for any pinch points as you continue. Once you have your serpentine belt tool on there, you can continue on by turning this. Slide the serpentine belt over your AC compressor pulley. Now at this point, we'll just double check all the pulleys we can see to make sure the belt is completely seated properly. You can see that the belt itself does have ribs. Make sure they're fitting inside the grooves on each one of the pulleys that has the grooves. Once you've done that, you can remove your tool. Now, once you've confirmed that the belt routing looks good, we'll continue on with our plastic panel inside the wheel well. Get that in position. Start in your push clips by pushing in the outer portion first, and then lock it in by pressing in the center. Continue on to reinstalling your wheel. Start on all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts, bottom them out. We'll get the wheel back on the ground, and then we can torque each of these to 83 foot-pounds. With the wheel safely back on the ground, we'll torque these in a crisscross manner. Torqued. If you have a hubcap, go ahead and put that on now. Pay attention to your valve stem hole. You want to make sure that aligns. Double check to make sure that's secure so it does not fall off while you're driving down the road. Let's get back up under the hood. It's time to reinstall the engine cover. Looking along the bottom side here, you will find that you have a rubber grommet. And if you were to look up along the top of where the valve cover is, you're going to find this small locating tab. We'll align those two areas and also align our mounting bolt holes. After that, we can start in all three of our 10mm headed mounting bolts. Make your way over to your negative battery terminal. We'll connect this in, use your 10mm, and we'll snug it up. Double check to make sure both of these are secured. Let's get this cap off of here. Now the next thing we're going to do is continue on with filling our cooling system. To fill the cooling system, there's a specialty tool, but you could also just use a coolant funnel if you wanted to. Make sure you use the proper adapter that fits over this area. Let's get this into position. Continue on with our funnel. Now that we have that on there, let's continue on to filling this up with the manufacturer's specified coolant. When we do so, we're going to add coolant into the funnel. You'll find that you have air bubbles making their way up, and the coolant will make its way down into the cooling system. We're going to start up the vehicle, let it run for a little while. Once you hear those cooling fans turn on, you can continue on to double checking for air and then closing up the system. Now that you've burped out all the air from in the system, go ahead and remove your funnel apparatus and continue on to reinstalling your radiator cap. Make sure that's nice and secure. Okay, friend, we've got our car back together. At this point, you want to go ahead and start it up. Let it run for approximately 5 seconds and turn it right back off. Once you've done that, we're going to continue on underneath the hood and triple check that belt. You want to make sure it's sitting on each one of the grooves properly. Assuming it is, go ahead and start up the vehicle, check for coolant leaks, and then take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.